There's a big difference between animals and human beings. And obviously, that difference is the soul. Animals don't have a soul. They die, they are finished. For us, after we were created, God breathed into us and we became a living soul. What that means is that when you look at me, you are seeing my body, and my body is actually the tent in which I live. When I die, or so called death, I'm actually not dead. I'm actually transiting from that body into the presence of the Lord. The scriptures say to be absent in the body, that means to die, is actually to become present with the Lord. There's no purgatory. That just or the Bible is saying it, you just exit into the presence of the Lord. What then that means is that we must understand how different we are from animals. And if you understand that difference, then you value human beings more than animals. Animals are also God's creation. We were told to have dominion over them, to look after them. So we still have to look at animals. But when you start valuing animals more than human beings, you are out of order. Similar, secondly, now that you understand how different we are, we must make sure we don't behave like them. Animals operate by reflex. They do not have control over their reflexes. They do what the reflex says. We are in control. It therefore means when an animal is on heat, if you're a farmer, you understand that language, an animal on heat. It means it is a time when it needs the bull, the cow needs the bull. It's a mating season. And it's not in control of that season. It is nature that controls that animal. That's why we say the animal is on heat and it's totally out of control. I was a shepherd in my early youth, and when a cow is on heat, it was uncontrollable. My friend, when human beings behave like that, they are denying the godliness in them. The God who has created them is a God who has given them the soul. And because of the soul in them, your body can feel a certain way, but the soul says, you can't go that direction. You may be passing through a place where there are chips. You like chips and you are rather hungry. You check your pocket, you have no money. You don't walk on. You don't steal the chips because you are hungry. You walk on as hungry as you are. A dog may not have managed that. Um, a chicken may not manage that. Not when it is hungry. But because you are a human being, God has given you the ability to control yourself so that you do what is right and you do what is right when it is the right time. Don't say, oh, what could I do? I couldn't help it. No. If you are not an animal, you are a human being. God has given you the ability to control. A lot of the commandments in the 10 Commandments assume that ability to control yourself. When it says don't steal, it is not because you don't feel attracted to something which you cannot afford. It's not because you feel the standard of living is not what you envisaged. And if you could do one or two tricky things, you could actually start living better. It's not because you do not have ways of cleverly doing some deals that may not be easily discovered by anybody. And that way you start operating a higher standard of living and greater wealth. It's not because you don't have the ability. But God has put something in you, a soul, that tells you it is wrong to do that. You can do it if you choose to, but God will call you rebellious. He has given you the ability to control yourself so that you cannot steal, even when you are desperately in need of the item. And the one who has kept the item has kept it badly, very temptingly. You still will be in that place with the item visible. Nobody ever likely to ever discover you have stolen it, and yet you not steal it because something in you is telling you the wrong thing to do. And you do not want to have to face the guilt that comes. Once in a Gideon magazine, Gideon's International, I read of this guy who stole from western coast of the US, ran away to the, I think, to the eastern coast, many thousands of kilometers on the other side, began a new life. And so there was no way the police could catch him. Those are many years ago. But he grew, he got married, got children, but the sense of guilt was so much that he finally was left an alternative that many years later to move back to the western coast, appear at the police station where the crime was committed, and ask, do you have a file about this and this and this? They are wrong, close the file. Says, I want you to reopen it. I'm the one who did it. I'm guilty. And you approach yourself, yes. What made him do that? Guilt, the soul in man. Yes. What about the commandment? Thou shalt not murder. It's exactly the same. And you know, Jesus redefined murder by saying if you hate someone, you have already murdered them. That's a very high standard that Jesus gave us in the New Testament. So it means many of us are murderers, although the police cannot prosecute us. The Bible is saying hating others is wrong. But sometimes, by the time you hear the explanation behind why somebody murdered, there was such serious provocation. I've listened to several cases of men who ended up slapping the wife or hitting the wife, sometimes leaving damage on the wife. When you listen to both families, to both parties in the family, you realize the wife is the one who provoked very seriously. Some will even tell you, beat up if you think you're a man, beat me up. You are running away, she's following you. She even pushes you. You reach a life when you turn around and slap her. And of course, because a man is stronger than a woman, you do damage. But the word of God is saying, you are not an animal. Provocation is not an explanation as to where you slapped your wife. A man under control of his emotions, and man under control of himself, unlike an animal or a dog, will be provoked, but will not react like that. They will choose to leave the house. They will choose to go and lock themselves in a room away from the provocations of the wife until the matters have cooled down. Of course, people think you are a coward, but you are not a coward. You are a man who controls his emotions. The other commandment is, thou shalt not commit adultery. That's even rougher. Lot of us have to admit we have a problem. Men, especially. I've never been a woman, so can speak as a man. I do not understand sometimes why women, knowing the men the way we are created, we are sexually aroused by sight. They deliberately do it. I call it deliberate because the designers, I look at people going to a swimming pool. The boys' thighs are fully covered. And he is swimming the same water and can even swim way faster than women. But look at the costume of women. They are deliberately almost exposing the private parts. Look at runners, the marathoners. The man is fully dressed, fully, the thigh is covered, all private areas fully covered. The woman will have something, and he's a marathoner, and will be having something that shows, almost shows private parts. The situation is like the current generation is up against men. So you could have an excuse. I'm not saying it's an excuse for raping, but we are surrounded by such provocative women whose dresses are too low from above and too high from below, are everywhere, provoking men sexually. However, according to God's word, no amount of provocation, even if a woman was to go naked before you, God will still hold you accountable if you touch her. Because he has given you as a man a soul, an ability to say no, an ability to run away from the sight, an ability to cover your eyes, an ability. Of course, people will call you a coward, will call you a fool, but you are willing to be called a fool than to incur the guilt that comes with immorality and adultery and the complication to your marriage that follows, and finally, your destiny in hell. Let's have an example of this in the book of Genesis 29, verse 20. So Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife. My time is completed and I want to make love to her." What does that tell you? It was 7 difficult years. He is in love with Rachel. He, to use his own words, he wants to sleep with her, but he can't until the 7 years are over. As soon as the 7 years are over, he runs to the father of the girl, say, give me my give me my wife. I want to make love to her. Interesting language, talking to your father-in-law like that. But the point is, Jacob was tempted for 7 years. And the evidence is the statement I've just read, but he never slept with her before the wedding day. And men and women, you need to understand, God's intention is nobody will have sex before they are declared man and wife. And who does that? God. He says, let what God has joined together, no man separate. What does that mean? That you should not be joined together by a clan elder or by you choosing, we are now married. You need to go before the presence of God. We normally call it a wedding. And we're not talking about the tea and whatnot. We're just talking about you and some 2 or 3 witnesses going before somebody you believe is in touch with God. Then, on behalf of God, declaring you man and wife. If you sleep with that girl, even on the morning of the wedding, you are guilty of adultery or fornication, rather. So, what have we learned? That you can be in love with someone and wait for 7 years without having sex with them. What have we learned? That God has created in us the ability to be in control of our emotions, to be in control of ourselves. Therefore, we have no excuse to do the wrong thing and blame it on somebody else. He has put in us soul, his breath, that gives us the ability to feel tempted and yet not sin. And Jesus was our example. He says he was tempted in every way, yet without sin. He was tempted in every way, yet without sin. So, my friend, we are learning that there is no provocation that can be your excuse. It is true your wife may have not cooperated with you for now. Somebody told me they lived with the wife, I don't know, for 7 years, and they live like sister and brother. But that will still not be an excuse to go outside the marriage bed to another woman. He gives you the ability to control yourself and talk to God about your sexual needs so that he himself can sort you out. Because he's the one who created the sexual need in you. And yet he's the same one who says you cannot have sex except when you get married. And then after that, only with the one person you are married to. So he himself knows what he has put in you, but he also given you the ability to be